So can you guys hear me? Yes. Perfect. Hi, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the Drupal AI module 2.0. I know you might have seen this slide in Frederick's talk this morning. I've added a lot of stuff that we're doing in AI 2.0, so I'm not going to talk that much about the history. Also, so you know, it's going to be specifically about the Drupal AI module, not about the AI ecosystem in general or how you're using AI from outside, but specifically the Drupal AI module and where we're heading. If you're interested in innovation in general, how you can use coding tools and so on, just stay put here. Jamie is going to be after me, going to be talking a lot about that. On Friday, I think Christoph will have a talk about the general AI ecosystem as well. My name is Marcus. I am a senior developer at Freely Give. I also work part-time as the tech lead of the Drupal AI initiative. But first of all, I'll just talk about how fast things are moving. So some of you might be old enough to remember like 2011 to 2013. There was new JavaScript frameworks every day. I remember I was studying Ember, and while I was studying Ember for like 1 week, React was released at around the same time, and there was all these, you know, Knockout, Meteor, Vue, what have you. And this kind of, you know, led to feeling, especially as a backend, that you had like a dread. There's too much stuff happening. How am I supposed to keep up with this? That passed. In the end, the JavaScript and the CSS knowledge was probably the most important thing because it made it easy to switch between frameworks. The similar things is happening now in AI. I'm just going to talk about two recent news that actually connects to how fast this is moving. And I'm not talking about recent as in this year, this month, actual stuff that happened this week. This video I always do to illustrate how fast things are moving. So this is 2023. This is text to video. Someone has prompted Will Smith eating spaghetti. It became a meme because of how bad it is, of course. This is 18 months later, a lot better. It's still obvious that it's AI made, but yeah. Just for fun as well, this is actually Will Smith eating spaghetti. So he recorded, he went full into the meme, actually recorded a video himself. But what happened this week is more important now then. This trailer dropped 5 days ago. It's a film called As Deep as the Grave. It's starring Abigail Breslin, and more importantly, it's starring Val Kilmer. So Val Kilmer from Top Gun, Top Secret, Tombstone. And if you know your movies, you know that he's been dead for 1 year. And this is not VFX compositing. It's not deepfake. This is actually generative AI, the same thing that's driving the LLMs. And this is the first time this is actually happening. There's a moral debate to this, of course. There's a lot of moral debate to this. I would just say that he wanted this before he died, so it's not his family like raking in money on him. He actually wanted this out. And I just want you to compare it to the picture on the right there. That's one of the most famous VFX versions of this. CGI face of Peter Cushing in Star Wars Rogue One. If you knew Peter Cushing was dead, you would see right away, okay, this looks like a game. It's not real. So we're at the point where AI is not just used for the good enough or the hobby projects anymore. It's catching up with what we can do as humans, and in certain cases actually making it better than what we have been able to do. Here's another thing that came out also 6 days ago. It's the Stanford University Artificial Intelligence Index report. I'll focus on 2 data points here that are important, but you should download it. It's really, really interesting. The first one is Cybench. It's a cybersecurity. So it's measured through like capture the flag competitions. They have security experts looking at code where there has been added some kind of malicious code. It can be very simple, like XSS or something like that, but it can also be very complex that you need to do like 5 steps to actually break the system. And 100% here represent what the best security experts can do. 2024, this was 18%. When this was reported, then it was 93%. So it's getting close to it. And what's more interesting there is also the speed. So the longest it took the security experts to solve the hardest issues was 25 hours. The longest it took the LLMs was 12 minutes. And you might think, okay, there's 7% there, but it takes time to write reports. Since then, Opus 4.7 has been released, Mythos has been released, and Mythos is actually 100%. It can find everything that the security experts could find. The second benchmark is software engineering benchmark. So this is how well autonomous AI can go in and fix GitHub issues of different form. It used to be 63% 2 years ago. It's nearly 96%. And I think many of you have used Cloud Code, Codex, and so on, and you see this as well. It's evolving very, very quickly. So it's a fast-moving field. So I'm just going to skip. So basically, the AI module came to be. We were a lot of people doing AI at different places. We just came together, and that's the AI module. That's the history of the AI module. 2023, everyone was on their own island doing CK Editor for OpenAI, CK Editor for Gemini, and they work differently and so on. So we needed an abstraction layer, and this is what we came together to do. We got an abstraction layer out there. We got a vector search using Search API, created an AI automation layer. We have some kind of logging in the version 1.0 and some kind of debugging. And I would just go through abstraction so you understand how it works here then. So this is how it, well, not how it used to be. If you're using PHP and you want to use OpenAI, there is an abstraction client for this that you can use. And using it together with Drupal would look something like this. I hope you can see the text, by the way, in the back. So you're getting a key from the key module, and then you're putting this into this specific client. They have a specific way of how you have to put in chat messages, system messages, and so on. A specific way how you get the output. Look at AVS. It's kind of similar, but still different. You have to use like a Bedrock profile instead, and you have to load this via their client, and their client works a little bit different. Even worse, if you're going to create an image using something like Fireworks AI with Stable Diffusion, there was no client. You have to write your own client. With the output, for instance, if you get a binary back, you have to figure out how do I take this binary and create an image that creates a media or something like this. So this is how OpenAI, the same thing, looks in Drupal AI. You use a plugin manager to load an instance of OpenAI in this case. You put a chat message inside, wrap it inside a chat input, put a system prompt on this chat input, and use the chat method. And then say which model you want. There's a normalized output. In this case, you want the text. And then we check how does it look with AVS. Well, as you can see, if I spin back and forth, you change the provider name, you change the model name, and that's it. Just works the same, which means this comes back to the discussion that was held here before, how easy we need to make it to actually switch models so you can use your local models or for governance or for whatever reason you want to use them. And everything you can do in Drupal AI works similar. So if you want to do a text-to-image input, it's an abstracted input. You put in a text in this case, and you get back a normalized object. In this case, it has some helper method, so it has get as media entity. So you can just use this, and then you get back a media object instead. So we have added all these complexities, and the idea is basically, if you're a developer using this, you should really not have to think about the complexities. You should just be using Drupal AI, and you get stuff like event handling, logging, guardrails, and everything like that for free. One other thing I want to talk about as well in how it's working today is something called operation types. So now, I mean, when we released, we were probably the first abstraction layer for PHP in general. Nowadays, there are many abstraction levels, but they focus on a lower level, which means that they focus a lot on capabilities, like input-output. But we have the idea of operation types instead, which is basically what business value does this give back to you, which fits better with a framework like Drupal. So if you think about, for instance, you have the input audio and the output audio, there's many different use cases that you might want to solve with this. So one thing could be that you're a podcasting service, you want to upload audio that has some background noise and you want to remove this. AI can do this, and you get cleaned up audio back. Another thing is that you want to take my voice and have it sound like Meryl Streep, but with the same cadence and everything. Another use case. Third one is that you want to use audio to translate stuff. So this makes things more flexible. If you want something to create something like an alt-text image generator, you can say just that I need chat with image vision, because that is what I'm trying to solve. And then it's up to whoever creates the website to decide which model do I want to use for this. There's, of course, quality difference between the models, but at least all of them can solve the same problem. The other thing is enabling for recipes, so we don't have to have provider-specific recipes. We don't have to have an OpenAI alt-text recipe, a Gemini alt-text recipe. We just have an alt-text recipe, and this can take any chat-to-image vision model. Sorry. Before I get to 2.0, quick show of hands here. How many knows about Google Notebook LM or have used it? So there's some hands here. So it's a really useful tool. What you can do is you can take, upload PDFs, point it at websites and so on, and it creates like a podcast, two people talking about this, summarizing. So when you're out walking, driving a car or something, you can listen to this and actually learn something. And here's the interesting thing there, where Drupal AI kind of works extremely well, but also failed a lot. This feature came out in 2024. You could do this in 2023 with Drupal and AI. So we had this in the AI interpolator. This is what you see here. I was running like a weekly news show for the longest time, just scraping what news are out there, summarizing that, and having people, well, AI people talking about this. Another example of this that I still think is unique among CMSs is you can upload a video, and this creates a full article in CK Editor, snaps out the images and everything. But this was mostly solved as a technical itch then. And another good example of the greatness and the failures, I think, is this thing, the AI API Explorer. So inside the Drupal admin UI, there is a developer's tool that you can use to try out any of these operation types with any provider and any model. I have used Google Gemini Research for this. This doesn't exist anywhere else than in Drupal. So it's actually a unique feature for Drupal, even if Drupal is not mainly AI. The problem, though, with all this looks really ugly. I created it, so I hope I can say this. This looks really ugly. It's not good UX. It failed sometimes. And I think more importantly, very few people might know about it. So while We had actually, for a long time, the most advanced AI functionality in any CMS. People didn't know about it, which comes to the next slide then. So this is where the AI initiative comes in. It's been moving really fast. Recently, it's been taking off since New Year's, basically. So we have dedicated UX and UI people. Aidan, Emma, some other people are here, I think. We have QA to prevent regressions and ensure stability. We have release managers, making sure that we actually release every 2 weeks. Our last patch release, on 1.3 alone, was 38 issues fixed during 2 weeks, which is record pace for us. Used to be like 3 to 5. But marketing has also become a key focus then. And it's not about just, staying inside the Drupal bubble, but actually reach out, get people to understand that, well, Drupal and AI is pretty powerful. This is something that hopefully can bring in new developers and users. And most importantly, I think we now have a strong leadership team as well that can actually point to this is what we should put resources on, this is what we should try to solve, instead of, just solving what sounds technically fun to solve. So let's talk about 2.0. There are 3 main things I'm gonna talk about, but then there are some other things as well. The first thing is then that we're moving out stuff. Some of these, like the field widget actions forever, they were never supposed to be in the AI module, to be honest. It doesn't require AI to work. You can use it together with ECA, for instance, only. So it doesn't really make sense to, ship this under the AI umbrella anymore. We did release it with the AI module because it had like a tight integration with automators, but we're moving it out now. Others like content suggestions and translate are valid implementations. They work very well, but they just represent one way of solving a problem, and it becomes a little bit problematic when we ship them. People might think, okay, this is the thing you should be using, when there's other ways to solve this, basically. I will also say one of the reasons that we shipped so many modules in 1.0 was that AI was completely new at the time. So people didn't really know about what you could do with it. We wanted to showcase, like, here are 50 things you can use AI for, because you can use AI everywhere almost. So because of that, we added a lot of modules, but now we're moving them out when people actually do start to realize AI is here to stay, right? There are also practical reasons. AI field validation is a great module, but it has dependencies that tended to fail for us. So we want to avoid both hard and soft dependencies on other modules, so it doesn't break and slow things down. So because of this, we're moving it out as well. In other cases, we have framework modules like AI search, the thing that's taking care of vector searching, where it might make sense to have it stay, but one of the reasons we're moving it out is so it can actually move in its own tempo. It doesn't have to move with the releases of the AI module. So ultimately, this is about focus and speed. Plus, the AI module has grown really large, so maintaining everything together is really hard. But we also see now that the abstraction layer we have is quite mature, so we're in a position to iterate much faster. But this only works if we reduce complexity. So the idea is basically we should focus on framework modules, so modules that you can build upon. Debugging and logging stays as well. So we have good solutions for this. Sorry. So this is the second major change. while our abstraction layer it's really mature now, right? Personally, it has been really a great way to learn about how AI works deeply on a low level, but Drupal should probably not focus on this on the long term when there are real abstraction layers and there is a historic connection between Symfony and Drupal. So we're strong when we're doing higher level integration, business integrations. We don't have to focus on the nitty-gritty details or whatever it takes to do an AI abstraction layer. And Symfony AI is in the making. It's not stable yet, so we're kind of depending on them to be stable. But we are already exploring with the versions that are out, replacing parts of the Drupal AI abstraction layer with Symfony AI. And hopefully they're going to have a stable release. It's hopefully weeks away now. And the idea is not to remove everything. So we have a lot of provider maintainers. So the different modules that takes care of how do I talk to OpenAI, or how do I talk to Azure, how do I talk to Olama or something like that. Those will still be needed. They will just hopefully be a lot simpler to maintain for the maintainers. So it's probably just going to be UI layers, metadata layers, some decoration. So right now we have a small team, these 5 people, building prototypes, testing how such an integration could look in practice. So huge thanks to Wolfgang, Desho, Atem, Harvansh, and Luca. So they are driving this forward. The third thing that is going to change a lot, and this especially if you're doing contrib modules for Drupal AI, is that currently you're talking directly to the abstraction layer. You're doing your solution on how to do a request. You're doing your solution how to select a model. You're doing your version on how to get structured output and how to wrap all these things. So what we're going to do in 2.0 is that we're going to instead move the AI agents that's currently in a contrib module into the AI module. So it's going to be a core runner part. So the agents runner, you can think of it as a wrapper around something called the React pattern. So it's reasoning and acting. It's a standardized pattern of how agents works. And this is going to create a more flexible way of how to do it. And this also means that if you're doing a contrib module, a better pattern going forward is that you ship with an agent and you use this agent. So one example of this, if you think about the AI Translate module, for instance, right now it's talking directly with a request to the abstraction layer. It has a prompt that you can change, of course, but say that you're a company, for instance, that has some requirement when something gets translated that this is gonna, I don't know, send a message to Slack or save this in some external database, something like this. If you move this to agent, it means that you only need to create a tool around this, and it's literally just one checkbox away from using this, as compared to now where you might have to go in then and hook into like the response, or actually go in and change the module itself. So going forward, very few third-party modules will hopefully need to talk to the actual abstraction layer, maybe ECA and some other that are really low level then. The tool API will become the main way of handling integrations with different types of actions. Right now, the AI module has 2 layers for what's called function calling. So how can you run a small snippet of code? So there's a lower level pure abstraction layer that doesn't really do anything. It just makes sure that each of the providers return and respond in the same way. But we also have something then that's called executable function call interface, I think it is, that can actually run. And this is what the agents are using at the moment. So the first layer, the abstraction, if we're moving to Symfony AI, is going to be replaced with Symfony And the second layer then is going to be deprecated for 2.0, and we're going to use Tool API as the main runner instead. And the benefit of this is that tools becomes more portable, so tools can be used outside of agents as well. So you can use them together with ECA. So say that you use then the MCP client. So we have a client that can connect to other MCP servers. You have something like send Slack message. All of a sudden, this becomes an action you can use in ECA as well. So you don't need AI for that. So you can have something like, when this article is saved, I want you to say, send a Slack message, and you can set this up in ECA. Works with views bulk operations as well. So the idea is that they're defined once and works everywhere. A nice thing that's been added with this as well that I think actually might be really important is inside ECA you can actually build either compose tools or tools that has to do something very unique. So this means, one thing it means is that the vibe coder, the person that might not actually know coding, instead of actually writing a tool, they can set it up in ECA, and then you get a graph view of it. So you get a visual view of what's happening, so you can understand it even if you can't read code. But the more important thing is that we can compose tools. So if you take the Slack message example, if you want to send 3 Slack messages, if you're using an agent, well, it has to use the tool 3 times then, which is not great for context. Instead, you can use the ECA to actually create one tool that sends out these 3 Slack messages at once. One thing that this is not coming in 2.x, we already have prototypes for this, and it's going to be in its own module soon. But this is one of the advantages of actually moving with the React standard, and that's that you can actually export the agents as well. Because with the Tool API, then we have Tool API CLI, which is which is something where you can run all the tools, you can search for tools, and this is of course very important for something like Cloud Code to be able to run them. But because we have this as well, when you set up an agent where you say, this is the system prompt, this is how you're supposed to do it, these are the tools that you have, you can just click an export button, and then you have a Cloud skill or a Cloud sub-agent. We also have a prototype HTTP REST layer over Tool API, and with this we have VAPI, so that's Voice API, that is possible to export to in like one click. So you can do stuff like, I've tried this myself. We have a web form agent that can create web forms for you, edit web forms, and so on. We did a spin-off of this that's basically web form submissions. So if you have a chatbot, it's going to ask you for whatever web form you have, like what is your name, what is your email, what's your opinion about this, whatever you set up in web forms. You can then export this to VAPI, and if you have a telephone number connected to your VAPI account, this means that someone can just call in, and there's going to be a voice agent asking these questions and saving it on your actual Drupal site as well. Another important concept that we're moving into now as well is stateless versus stateful. So historically, all the providers, all the models have been stateless, meaning that each request is completely independent. There's no history behind them. If you're running an agent framework, you have to make sure that you are the memory. You're sending it every time. So if you think about an agent that loops over and over, so sends multiple requests, in theory, what you can do is that you can say that the first request goes to a local model, second request goes to OpenAI or something like that. Of course, a lot of the providers want you to use their product, so they have started adding a lot of stateful features. Some of those are very, very good, so we're starting to add those. In 1.4 that's going to be released very soon, we have File API. So that means that you can upload a file to their server. This gets indexed in vector database, and this also means that when you're utilizing this, it uses a lot less tokens. But you can also use this for fine-tuning and other reasons. Soon we're going to add as well that you can actually store memory then statefully, which means, of course, when you do this, you have to decide, okay, I'm going to use OpenAI for this full agent run and so on. And this also enables more advanced techniques like compaction. So summarizing long interactions. If you have an agent that runs for 10, 15 minutes, it might create hundreds of thousands of tokens. And this gets just too complex for most models. It can't handle this. So you have something called compaction, where it's like summarizing it all the time, what's happening. And this is actually quite, it's quite difficult to solve. So we have something called short-term memory plugin, where you can do it yourself using the Drupal AI module. But a lot of the things that especially OpenAI and Claude does with this just works very, very well, which means we can start using this as well. Another thing that comes out from using the file API is the batch API. So for anything that is automation, anything that you know that it doesn't matter if this runs now, it can run within 24 hours. It should just run sometime and do the inference. You can start using it with this. So an example could be the AI translate. Say that you want to translate 100 nodes. You can just then set this up and say, I want these translated within 24 hours. I don't care about when. And this is going to be added to the batch API, which is a lot cheaper because this utilizes the fact that the GPU availability in a lot of these providers changes depending on the time of the day. So they basically run your specific jobs when they have a lot of extra resources. Where this is also probably going to be added before 2.0. So that's request routing and failover. In 2.0, we're going to introduce a simple failover system, and this is going to be part of Symfony AI. They have it built in there. There are already modules like AI usage limits, where you can see like how much tokens have I used? Am I using too much tokens? Should I stop certain requests? But we have started adding, there's an issue in the AI ECA module, and we will see maybe to move it over to the AI module as well, where you can use ECA for all this. So this means that any variable that you can think about in the request or the response level can work as conditionals, and you can rewrite any request or any response. And you can also hook into when an exception happens, meaning that, okay, OpenAI failed here, then I want it to go to Claude instead or something. Which means that you can do stuff like if the amount of input tokens is under 200 tokens, run it on a small local model because they're going to handle it. If it's really big, push it to Claude instead. If it's using some specific module, use this model instead. If there's a user that's very abusive, put extra guardrails on it. You can do anything, basically. We also are going to structure the automators. So when we released the automators, structured output wasn't really a thing. So what you can do with these providers is that you can provide a JSON API schema and say this response has to be following the schema, and it's going to give you back, well, either JSON or tell you in text form, okay, whatever you asked here has nothing to do with this JSON API schema. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to this because this was something that didn't exist at the moment, which means that you can use a lot smaller models to actually solve what used to take OpenAI or Anthropic to do a lot of automation. You can, most of it actually I've tested with Gemma 4, for instance. It works with Gemma 4. And so LLM reminds me as well of something from my past. I used to work with live video streaming, and there's kind of a lot of similarities of what's happening with LLMs today, what happened with video a long time ago. Because if you think about a raw stream that comes out of broadcast equipment, that is 3 to 6 gigabits per second, which obviously you can't send that out to users. So you need to compress it a lot. So we're talking going from 6 gigabits to something like 10 megabits. So it's really compressing a lot. And you're trying to do something called visual lossless, so you actually don't see any difference between these two videos. What's happening now with LLMs is very similar, but instead of compressing video, visuals and audio, it's trying to compress language, basically. Huge amounts of text and data into smaller, more efficient models that can still retain their usefulness. And we've been starting to see this in practice. So just, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, Gemma 4 was released. They have something called effective parameters. To be honest, I don't know how it works. Theoretically, I know it works because I have been running tests on this, and it's really, really good. And it can run on my GPU that I have at home, a normal gaming GPU. And that's the interesting part then. So if you look here, this is LM Arena. They compare different models. I don't know how many remember their first ChatGPT moment here. Some people. So GPT 3.5 Turbo, that's what ran on ChatGPT. According to leaks, it needed 10 NVIDIA H100 to do inference, to actually produce tokens. And that's $250,000. The placement there is 260. So that's where it is among modern models. Gemma 4 that was released and that you can run on a Mac Mini with 48 gigabytes of RAM, or a RTX, well, it should say 3090. 3090 is in place 44. And from what I have tested, from what I've seen everyone test, it is better than even 4.0. That's not, I mean, it's old in AI terms, but it is just 1.5 years. And we're gonna utilize that. We have Ulama and all that already, but we have a prototype here then called the browser provider. So if you use Chrome today, it actually ships with a LLM inside it that you can utilize via JavaScript. Adaptive one, so you can use it if the user has GPU, you get a better version. The minimum requirement is 16 gigabytes of RAM, so I can actually run it on this machine, which is quite crazy. The 16 gigabyte RAM, of course, can't do super good stuff, can summarize, can maybe answer some RAG questions, but that's about it. But the GPU version is really, really good. So what this module does is, first of all, you can do this layer, of course, that you do everything inside Chrome using JavaScript. So we don't, if you own the website, you don't really know what's happening there. It's just using some JavaScript to run this model, and someone saves the article, but we only see save article. We don't know if they used AI or not, which is super good for privacy, of course. But we also have this mode, where you can actually, from the Chrome browser, ask a request, and this goes into the website, goes back to the browser runs it and gives back a response, and you might wonder, why do you need to do that? That's just stupid, it's already there, right? Well, it becomes an AI provider for us. It's not different than any other AI provider, which means that anything that you can run with Drupal AI, you can all of a sudden run with your Chrome browser, as long as you have it open. So this means guardrails are there, context control center is there, logging is there. But the cool thing, even cooler thing you can do with this, it has a proxy page. So if someone is on a Firefox, they don't have the LLM there, right? You can just set up a Mac Mini, log in as your user, go to a specific page, and all of a sudden you have set up an AI provider. So the person on Firefox that is your same account writes the article, but it goes to the Mac Mini that has a GPU, the response comes back, and all of a sudden you have set up a local LLM provider in the simplest way possible. This also has queuing, which means you can do this, failover, whatever you want. You can set up MacMin in your home and on another location, and you have redundancy. So it's probably the easiest way to actually set up privacy providers. We're doing abstraction of the chat UI. So right now there's hard dependencies between AI assistants API chatbot. We're gonna remove that. Anyone can create a chatbot. We're just gonna give a reference example on how to do it, because we realized after we created that there's many different versions of chatbots. We're adding skills. So in 1.4, we already had a lot of skills for developing for the AI module. And in 2.0, the idea is that you can also set up the AI module using this. And there's basically these 4 commands to do it. So list the skills, get the skills, and this is using standardized MPX skills commands. You run whatever you want to do with the skill, and then you remove it for context reasons. I'm just going to end with this, so just to stress that the AI module is just part of a bigger ecosystem. It used to be like the AI thing, but as you can see, using Cloud Code and stuff like this, the AI module is not made for that. The AI module is made for using from the inside out. So there's going to be talk about today there's going to be a talk about MCP server, so if you want to know more about that, that's later today. I talked about Tool API. There's going to, just stay put, and you will hear about AI best practices. So that's basically how we make sure that something like Cloud Code just works. Both ECA and FlowDrop has their own talks as well, so that's for using workflows, basically, and workflows and AI. If you come on contribution day, I have the saltiest licorice in the world there. It literally tastes ammonia. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're into stuff like that, it's from Sweden, called Swedish Bastards. So come and help out, and I'll give you one of these. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Oh, there's a question.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. As you know, AI in Drupal and in the Drupal Association is the #1 talk at the moment. And we have many discussions and some issues that create conflicts or such situations. Do you think that we should create a Drupal dataset so we can do our benchmarks for every tool we create or we plan to create? Or we should better stack with the major benchmarks that the tech community provides? Because I think we do anything except from testing Drupal, testing AI exactly for Drupal.
So if you're talking more about how you can configure Drupal, how you can set it up, this is basically what...
No, I mean a data set for the LLMs, so we can test...
okay, you're talking about fine-tuning a model.
Fine-tuning and data sets, questions, answers.
Yes, this is... I think going forward, we're going to spend a lot of time for this. One of the reasons is that you get File API in, because you can actually do fine-tuning directly from Drupal then against different systems. I have tried fine-tuning a lot with images with very, very good results. With textual data sets, I've just tried with the bigger models. And I can say, if you're trying to change how OpenAI works, for instance, it doesn't really do any big difference. So I've tried even, with 500, 1,000 data sets of a specific thing. But for what I hear, but I haven't tested yet, but for smaller models that you can actually fine-tune, this makes a big difference, specifically when you want it to be responding in a specific structured way. So it's definitely something we're going to explore more. Okay, thank you very much.
That was good. Complicated for me, but
What?
it was complicated, but really good.